Hello peoples of the internet. What you're looking at right here is my Creality CR10 S5, and what it's doing is a test print, and I'm test printing one of these Fallout 4 T60 helmet thingies I got off a Thingiverse, which makes a pretty good test pattern. I printed one a long time ago in really small scale, and I just scaled it up for this test. Now, as I've mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is all done for the test on my extruder motor. Now my extruder motor is down and around over here, you can see, and as you see, I've already replaced the extruder gear thingy, whatever you want to call that thing. Anyway, that's the red thing I'm talking about. So the original one, of course, broke. They all break. All the plastic ones break. They crack underneath and they fail to feed. Now I was getting massive under extrusion with my CR10 S5. And how under extruded was it? Well, it was extruding only about 40%. So I would say, hey, print me out, or hey, extrude 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters of filament, and out would come 40 millimeters. So watching a couple videos on the internet, I figured out how to do a test on this. The test is really easy. Basically, you just unhook this little guy over here, you go into the menu, and you say, hey, print me out 10, and then you measure, right, what comes out versus what you told it. So I said, hey, print me out 100 millimeters, and over here with the cable off, it spits out 40 millimeters. And then you just do a very, very simple calculation, and I'll do a better display of this in a minute, where you go into your thing and you move the axis around. Basically, I had it set on its factory settings at 93 steps. Can you see that? Yeah. So you multiply that out, 93 times 100 gives you 9300, and then you put that over how much was actually printing out, which was 39.8 millimeters, and that gives you a total of 233.6. Yes, I had to change the settings on this from 93 to 233.6 steps. Yeah, that's what this is currently printing at. And of course I tested it to see, now I'm getting 100 millimeters. When I tell it I want 100 millimeters to extrude, it'll extrude out 100 millimeters of filament. We're using standard PLA. This is coming from Creality itself, and nothing special with that. Now something must have happened where, because this stepper motor here, this extruder motor, used to do great prints and then just stopped. So I don't know if the motor's broken or what. So I'm going to do this test print, and then I'm going to take off this Bowden cable again right over here at the fastener, and I'm going to tell it to print out another 100 millimeters. Now I think that the motor is either damaged or dying, and I've already ordered another one. Now, this motor is only going to cost you between $10 and $20, depending on who you order it from. Sorry, a cough in there. But yeah, I'm getting it through Amazon, so that's usually the cheapest place to go. And it's a Creality motor, and it's the right stepper motor. I'm going to hook it up and see. I don't know what happened to this stepper that it's so far off. I don't know if there's a broken gear inside, or if some part of it is screwed up from use, or if it's dying, or what the deal is. But this test print, which is about 49% of its way through, and it's looking pretty good, by the way, compared to the dozens of prints that failed before this. And let me tell you something, I was racking my brains out trying to figure out what's going on here. Was it not hot enough? Was it too hot? I was messing around with different temperatures for my filament. Right now I got a bed temperature of 60 degrees Celsius and a nozzle temperature of 205. I like it a little bit on the warm side, and it's working just fine. I'm getting good adhesion. I'm not getting any elephant footing. I'm not getting any peel up. I'm not getting any weird stuff going on over here. By the way, the sound over here, there's a little heater I have because my garage is freezing, and I print this stuff out in my garage, so that's what's going on with this. But yeah, as soon as this is finished, I'll show you the finished print, and then we will do another test to see, is it still extruding properly at 233.6 steps, because that's just crazy. I mean, the normal print is supposed to be 93 point whatever steps, and yeah, I had to spin and spin and spin this thing. So I don't know what the hell is going on with this. I already ordered the new thingy over there, but I want to print it out before I even replace the motor and just make sure that it's still putting out 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters when I tell it to, because I am curious about that. And then I'm going to replace it, because there's no reason on this God's green earth that this thing should be printing the way that it's printing. Even if it's working right now, I don't foresee this as a good thing. 233 steps. That can't be right. That just can't be. And again, I don't know what happened to it to cause it to do that. I don't know if it broke something internally or if it just died. I have no idea. I mean, it's working, but again, that's not the correct setting that it should be at, and I have no way of knowing why it's doing what it's doing. I am hopefully going to have a decent print with this thing, and then we'll pop off the cable and ask it to print out another 100 millimeters and see what happens. We'll measure it and see if it maintains that. Even if it maintains it, I'm still going to swap out the motor and go back to, well, go to whatever settings work. There's no way it's going to be 233. If anybody's had the same experience where their extruder stepper is doing weird, crazy crap like this, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to know. So, yeah, we'll be back on this in a second. Alrighty, it is the next day, and what do we have? We have a pretty good print, but it failed. If we look at the top of this print, what we see here is this last 10%, 15%, whatever this is, at the very top here, I don't know what percentage it is, it stopped doing what it was supposed to do. It was great. We got wonderful everything at the 233.6 steps, which we increased it to in order to get it to print, say, 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters when we asked it to, because it wasn't printing properly. But now, at some point, it failed. Now, why did it fail at the top? I don't know. So what we're going to do is, by the way, I already pulled this off of the thing and took the liberty of ripping out the support material, which, by the way, was not an insignificant task. There was a tremendous amount of support material. Now, the bottom part down here is amazing. It's super strong and everything else. Up top here, it's starting to feel like, you know, like it did. So did the motor fail at that point? Did something happen at that last percent? Was it in the middle of the night and we lost power and it came back on and it reset itself? I don't think so. It says here that it went for 1 day, 7 hours, and 34 seconds. Now I'm going to check and see what the E-steps say on this. Let's go to control. Let's go to motion. Let's go down to steps. Our steps are still good. It shows us at 233.54 steps. All right, so that's the correct amount of steps. Now what I'm going to have to do is going to have to ask it to print out 10 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to my main. Going to go to prepare. Under move axis, we get down to extruder. So it's this extruder motor that is the question. And we're going to ask it to move 10 millimeters. But first I'm going to pull off this Bowden cable over here, and we're going to start at 0. And just hang on for a second while I do that, and I'll show you how it prints out. Alrighty, here you can see I've removed my Bowden cable. I popped it off. And one of the things that I like to do when I do this is I'll unscrew this, and then I'll release the tension over here and push it a little bit so it pushes out, and then I'll just snip it so it's flush. And as you can see right here, it's flush. And I'm going to tell this little guy right here, I'm going to say, hey, We're going to move axis. We're going to go down to our extruder. I hope this is catching this. And we're going to go 10 millimeters. And we should be at, extruders at 273. Okay. I don't know why it says 273, but 283, 293, 303, 313, 323, 333, 343, 353, 363, 373, 383. That's, we were at 283, now we're at 383, so that's 100. And we'll just, now nothing's happening. You see this? Nothing's happening. So this is something else. You got to heat up your extruder, dude, in order for this to happen. So we're going to go over there and we're going to heat up our extruder. Back to prepare. Go to main, go to control, temperature, nozzle, and let's crank up our nozzle to 200 just for fun. Now once it reaches 200, we're going to see if it automatically does this or if we have to go up to 293. 200 should be enough. Go to our main info screen and let's watch that nozzle go up. By the way, this takes a minute, so we're just going to watch it go. You know, I'm just looking at the detail on this print, and I was pleased as punch. By the way, a couple pieces sort of printed separately, but where they are, and there's a piece that goes right over the ear thing. That printed out just fine, too. And then there's a little thingamadoodle that sits right over here, a little twisty thing, and that printed out fine, too. And we could just re-glue that on as well. No big deal. Still got some things over there, and again, I didn't really clean it out as well as I should have, because making a video, internets, that kind of stuff. But yeah, why is it so crappy up here? Can this be fixed? Yeah, you know, some putty will fix this up. But it's a shame because this was like a 2-day print, and I was so happy it was working. I'm like, yeah, it's working. Or does this just prove to me that, yeah, you got to replace that extruder stepper motor? Yeah, I'm gonna replace it. But I want to run this test just to see what she's printing out right now at. Is it a slow dying thing? Is it a random kind of an error? What exactly is wrong here? We are at 177, 179, 180, and she's going up really fast. No need to heat up the bed here. You know, watched a lot of videos, and people will say things like, "Oh, you know, you're using glass. You got to get it up to 70." Some people say 60, some say 50 is fine. It took me the use of this spatula scraper thing and a pretty massive hammer that I have up here named Molnar to whack this thing undone, to actually get this to come off of this glass. Now normally I hold it down with a very thin layer of Super 77, but the adhesion with the Super 77 is pretty minimal between the PLA and the glass, so that's never really a big deal. It usually just peels right off. But yeah, I had to really hammer the hell out of it to get it off. Now, was I too close to the bed? Was that the problem? Was it really squishing it down there, making the adhesion a real issue? I don't think so. I mean, although that can have an effect, no question. But let's see, we're at 200. Are we at 200? We are at 200. All right, and why is it not spitting it? All right, well, we're at 383. So what I can do now is I can go to Control, Motion. Oh, you know what? I don't want to do that. Sorry. We're going to go, get me back to main. We're going to go to prepare, sorry. And we are going to move the axis from prepare. We're going to go to our extruder, and we're going to go by 10 millimeter movements. We're at 383, we're going to go to 483, which is 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters. $483, and she's extruding. But how much is she extruding? Well, we'll know when she's done if we make it to our 400. If we make it to our 100 centimeters, we're going to snip this off. We're going to measure it with our calipers, and then we're going to know. Well, she's still extruding. Let's look at our little extruder wheel going here. Still going. Still going. That looks like 10 centimeters. I mean, what? That looks way more than 10 centimeters. What? What? Is that 10 centimeters? I don't know. We're gonna snip her off. Flush right up against this guy right here. We're gonna put our finger. Look at that. Look at one-handed. I'm a pro. Look at me. Nice and flush, and then I cut, and then I'm holding it with my fingies. There you go. That's how you do it, kids. You want to be a cool kid, you want to be a pro, that's how you do it. All right, we're going to go measure this and see what we come up with. Is this 10? If this is 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters, why did we have this failure? Because this failure is typical of what we were looking at before I changed over the number of steps. I am confustered. Alright. Alrighty, so we have our piece of sprue, we have our piece of filament, and we have our handy dandy official measuring device here. And if we look at this, yeah, this is exactly where it was extruding out before. Can we get into there? So, as I go down here, I don't know if this is not coming out because of that. I don't know if you can see this or not. So, let's put it up against a dark wall here. Go up to 9, 10, focus. You can see it a little bit past 10. It's not really, oops, I'm sliding my finger, sorry. It's a hair past, so like 101, 102 millimeters. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we're kind of at, and that's perfect. That's where we were at before, so consistency is correct. Well, the consistency is the same as it was previous to the print. So why did it fail? I don't know. If we look at the part, we're not getting any answers. So we take a look at the part, and that's all the stuff from the inside of this, by the way, in that trash can over there. If we look at the part and we see the part where it failed, it's not giving us any clues as to why it started to fail up here. This just reinforces my thought that, yeah, you got to replace that stepper, and we'll go from there. This is a really solid print, and I don't know why we had that failure there at that last 5%. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But this is if you're not willing to experiment around with these things, you know, the Creality CR10S5 is not for you. If you want it to just work perfectly out of the box, yeah, you need a different printer, because it ain't this one. And I don't know why this is doing this, but okay. You know what, we're going to make a second video after I replace the motor and the extruder stepper motor, and we'll see what happens then. Thanks for watching.